Hope you're doing great. Hey, good morning. It's Brandon Dempsey here at the Worship Team Training Morning Show, and you came to the right place. How are you today? What is up in your world? Hope it's a terrific Tuesday for you today. How are you? Great guys coming in. St. Louis, it's been a long time. How you doing, man? On Periscope. And our awesome broadcast assistant, Clarence. Clarence is with us today, just rocking it out there. Thank you guys. Good morning. How are you, man? Heading to class. So good. Hope you guys are great. Kyle and Dana, what's going on? Fantastic folks coming in on Periscope, and you, Facebook Live. Thanks so much for joining us today. Ben, what's up? I love recording in a garage, in a parking garage. There's nothing like it, right? Joe, you're at the gym. Good for you, brother. Hope I don't cause you to miss a rep. What's going on? I know it's great to see you, man. Very good, St. Louis. We need to connect, man. Great to have you guys today. Welcome to the Worship Team Training Morning Show. I'm your host, Brandon Dempsey, with WorshipTeamTraining.com. Who am I? Well, I'm just a worshiper like you, sinner, fallen, picked up by grace, and just so happens I lead a ministry called WorshipTeamTraining.com. We have a lot of people on board with us doing crazy, amazing things with teaching, mentoring, article videos, so many things going on. And plus our awesome Busy to Work team and new creative team, which I'm going to announce later on throughout this month of May. So more to come. And who are we? What do we do? Exactly what we say. We train worship teams. We work with worship leaders and pastors, musicians, singers, just like you. And we come to your church for a 1 or 2 day event. We also have mentoring, and that's one-to-one with me or someone else on our staff, just like you're seeing here on video or by phone. Yes, the creative team is going to be fantastic. We're not releasing it yet, but I can't wait. So Ben, thanks for that shout out on that. It's going to be fantastic. Fantastic, huge. That's all you're going to get out of me for the impersonation there. But anyway, don't mean to digress, but we are excited because we got some great things coming up. Another great thing, well, this broadcast, when do we do it? Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And right now is the perfect time that we invite you guys to let us know what's up. If this is the first time of you coming into the broadcast, welcome. Glad that you're here. If you would, please type in all caps, new, and the city or country of where you're from. We always want to know who we're hanging with, and this broadcast is about community. So we love to have you and love to engage in conversation. If you're already on the Worship Team Train, we say all aboard, and please type in FAM as an FAM for family, so we always know who is with us on this train today. We're so glad that you guys are here. And who are these broadcasts for? Well, they're for worship leaders, pastors, musicians, singers, audio tech, just like you. And today, we're going to be talking about let the walls fall down. And what does that exactly mean? In Periscope, I'm going to fix your camera. There you go. What does that exactly mean? Let the walls fall down. There's a lot to talk about that, and we did that with today's post. So if you are interested in looking at what we have, go to WorshipTeamTraining.com, and as you do that, you'll look at the blog feed at the bottom, and you'll see today's article, Let the Walls Fall Down. And we're going to be talking about how to creatively, we're talking about creative team, right? Well, we're going to be talking about how do you give that authority away? How do you give creative authority away? That's what we're talking about today. Because many of us struggle with, number one, leadership. Number two, how do we give that leadership away? Number three, how do we maintain creativity? Well, creativity is not just limited to you as one person if you are a worship leader or a leader within your ministry or pastor. The power of creativity is within the team, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, without further ado, go ahead and follow us on Twitter if you're not already. Thanks, Ben. Shout out on Periscope. If you guys would, also, I forgot to mention this too, share today's broadcast. You can easily do that. If you're watching us by Facebook Live, be sure to hit the like button if you haven't already, and then hit share. Share this out on Twitter, Facebook, all your friends, and all of our fantastic audience over on Periscope. Please do the same thing. Just swipe the screen and invite and let people know what's going on. Share it out with all your friends on Periscope and also on Twitter. Thanks so much, Ben and St. Louis. Appreciate you guys sharing that out with your friends. You can also share this out on the replay. So again, Facebook Live, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. You can always share that out because there's going to be somebody that you can think of today that needs to hear this message. And so that's what we pray. Big shout out to Kelly, having such a tough time, our content media manager today. Man, she's just slugging it out. So prayers go out to her for all the hard work that she's doing, and also the great, fantastic people who are coming on board on the creative team. So to get more about what we're talking of, please do this. Follow us, share at WorshipTT on Twitter. Also on Snapchat, we got 2 new exciting things happening. Number 1, Snapchat. So download this program, your app basically, on your phone or device, and then add us, WorshipTT. Just search WorshipTeamTraining or WorshipTT, and then you'll see our profile come up. Add us on Snapchat because why? You will see content throughout the day within our Snap Stories that is fresher and better, I think, content than what we do on the broadcast or articles. I say better because it's live, and also you get to pick my brain. You guys ask me questions from time to time, and so love doing that. And if you guys are happening with the Snapchat things, then you'll see all of the messages that I put out. Plus, you guys let us know what's happening within your world. So within your worship team or ministry, you guys, like yesterday, I got like 5 different messages about, hey, this is cool. Hey, this is what we're going through. Continue to do that. And thank you guys for following us on Snapchat because you guys make it happen. Also, big news today. Today is our unveiling of our 14-day devotional plan. If you're watching our social feed on Instagram, also YouVersion, and Twitter, Facebook as well, we shouted this out about probably 30-45 minutes ago. Our brand new 14-day devotional plan is up and ready to go for you. All you need to do is go to Bible.com and then download YouVersion. YouVersion is the app that your Bible, this awesome Bible online program, runs on your phone or your device. And while you're there, search again Worship Team Training, and then look at our devotional plans. We got our brand new 14-day plan. Ready for this? It's called The Soul of the Worship Leader. The Soul of the Worship Leader. And what does that mean? The Soul of the Worship Leader basically centers our lives on Christ. And as we pray for the Holy Spirit to take up residence, we also ask Him for wisdom as we lead out and to be the kind of worshipers that the Father is seeking. That's, in a nutshell, that's what the devotional series is about. 14-day plan. Big shout out to Michael, who's been doing all the tough work, and also our friends at YouVersion, namely Jessica, for lifting us off. We really appreciate Bible.com and the great team over at YouVersion. So thank you guys for all the hard work that you do. So without further delay, we also want to talk about our next webinar. Tony Guerrero is coming up next week. That's next Tuesday, May the 24th at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Screen it right now. Screen it. Tony Guerrero, the 24th. You screen this too. This is the link that you can get to find a free webinar. All you need to do is go to worshipteamtraining.com/events. Click on that, sign up today. It's a free webinar. Tony's going to be talking about raising the standard of the worship team. What does that mean within quality of skill, most importantly, quality of heart? We're going to be talking a lot about that. And Tony's got some great, fantastic tools to introduce, so you can't miss it. Again, worshipteamtraining.com/events. So, workshops. We're going to talk about that later on today. If you're interested in us coming to you, me or Tony, somebody else, me, coming to your church for a 1-day or 2-day event that we can put on for your worship team in your environment, is a private one-to-one workshop. It's not a big conference. It's just a simple private gathering that I sit down with your musicians and singers to help you guys unify your sound, your leadership, your heart, and to uplift the leading of worship within your church and make sure that your church is worshiping and singing. So lots to do, a lot of great things that we can share with you. Check us out, worshipteamtraining.com/workshops. let the walls fall down. That's what we're here to talk about today. So what does that really mean, let the walls fall down? Well, it's about your leadership. It's so easy. And then now as we go through this broadcast, again, as always, please participate. Let us know what's up. Just type in the comment window, even if you're watching us on the replay, type in the comment window. Let us know your thoughts. If you got questions about this topic or an idea for a new topic, we can introduce that later. But for right now, we want to talk about Let the Walls Fall Down. And what does that mean? You can grab the article for today. It's called Let the Walls Fall Down at WorshipTeamTraining.com. So if you want to follow along and use those as notes, please do that. And as we get into today's show, we're going to be talking about how do we allow the Lord to destruct, our walls, to basically take the things that we put up, knock them down. I mean, I think about our 2.5-year-old. He's real good at that. Loves to build with Legos, and then within a sweep, just knocks everything down. That's what little boys and girls love to do. And I think even as we get older, we like to do the same thing, but it just comes out in different ways. So I'm not saying that you need to knock anybody else's wall down. But anyway, I'm not going to be talking about walls today. We got enough about wall talk, don't we, in the political realm? That's not what the show's for today. But we're talking about how can we allow our walls to come down to make it a better ministry for your team and also for your church, because you're leading your church in worship. So take part in today's discussion. Let's go ahead and get right to it. So it's important as leaders of worship that we are to build a unified front as we're leading worship. And what does that mean? I think about the story of Jericho and Joshua. Joshua could not have won the battle alone, simply put. And each person in the worship band, tech and audio, have that same skill set and ability for leading your church in worship, just like leading the battle. But the question is, are we building a team, or are we building a wall that God's going to come and knock that down anyway? It's so I think natural for us, because we want to build our ministries, we want things to go well, but we tend as leaders to build a wall around ourselves, and that's something that God does not desire for us to do. And that is the problem with Jericho. If you read your history and look into Joshua chapter 5 and 6, simply Jericho was this walled off city. They were doing bad things and just really reluctant to worship God and just despise God's people. And God's like, okay, great. Well, I'm just going to send my people and send Joshua down there and blow you up, basically. So now to talk about that, God, of course, is a God of love. Why would he do this to a city? Well, he's trying to get the city's attention. And sure enough, he did when he allowed all the walls to fall. But he could not just use Joshua alone. He could have if he wanted to. But the whole point within... What's up, Scotty? How you doing, man? Periscope. The whole point is to have the Lord use Joshua's team effectively in a way that really promoted the works of God. When you think about it, when you think about team, the team is not to promote one person. The team is to promote the whole entire front, the whole ministry, because it shows what God is doing collectively as a whole. And that's exactly what God wanted to do in the heart of Joshua and also within the heart of Israel. And to also show to Israel that he alone is God and he can do great things. And so there's a trust factor, there's a patience factor. So we're going to get into that. So how do we lead all these different multifacets within our worship team? Look, when you think about it, hey, Amy on Periscope, when you think about it, that's a balance within itself, isn't it? When you're leading your own worship team, you got different walks of life, backgrounds, musical influences, leadership influences, upbringing, behaviors, character, shall I go on? Diva-ness. We got all these different things happening within our ministry. And it's not just regulated to the worship team. You have this in your youth groups, your children's ministry, education, everywhere. So the question is, how do we deal with it all? And our job as leaders, no matter what we may do, is how do we artistically motivate the team, bring them into one spirit, one heart, that can effectively lead worship. That is a tough job. I mean, just the music side alone is a tough job, but the spiritual heartness of everything, being one, yes, Ben, on Periscope, all of that is a tough job to do. So this is what led me to the story of Joshua. And the question is, number one, are you trying to be the lone Joshua, let's say? Are you the only one in your team that's making the creative decisions? Well, that shouldn't be. What should be happening is that we create a collaborative team. And even here at Worship Team Training, I mentioned about our new creative team that we are drawing on right now. I mean, what I find fantastic is synergy. And synergy is when you combine the energy and passion and skill and heart of other people within your team to make it more of a collaborative effort that makes it bigger than just the one person. I mean, if you can combine that in the leading of worship, I mean, wow. Think about how much greater your worship would be. Now, here's the danger. Is all it takes is that one person, right? You know that one person in your team? You guys have that, don't you? I mean, or the one person in your church that complains about everything, that gets upset, wants to bring everything down. All it takes is that one person. So we don't want to center everything on that. We want to learn how can we work with that one person on your team that may be negative. You never know, and I always say this too. You never know what's going on within the team. Somebody that's on your audio team or media or band that has maybe just a poor attitude. Am I speaking to your truth right now? I mean, maybe they have a poor attitude about things. Well, how about you just go to them instead of just saying, well, that person just doesn't get it. How about you go to them and just ask them questions and know where they are in life so that they can get it. I mean, that's a challenge within itself, but I have found the greatest relationships that have happened when I've come to one of the team members, when I see them building up walls, when I see them putting up fences, and it's kind of like I just go to them and say, hey, what's going on? I mean, what can I help you with? I mean, get to know them more. I mean, befriend them, because you never know what kind of relationships that can really spark off and can be huge payoffs for you in the end. Okay, so that's just a little bit of an encouragement there. So Ben, thanks for that shout out, saying mind blown. Appreciate that. And Amy. So here's what got me thinking. Here's what got me thinking. Joshua is ready to go. God's telling him to go down to Jericho, right? And he's like ready, but then all of a sudden, or maybe, but here's what happened. Before Joshua gets on the scene with Jericho, he is confronted by an angel. And what's interesting about it is that the angel clearly speaks, saying that I am the commander of the Lord's army. I mean, that's like, wow. I mean, he meets him with a sword in his hand. The angel's got this big sword, saying that I am the commander of the Lord's army. What are you going to say to that? And so what's interesting is that Joshua's like ready to go. He's like, okay, and Joshua's first response is, are you for us or against us? I mean, that kind of shows the tenacity right there, because what I love about it is that Joshua said the word us. Did you catch that? What I love about Joshua's response is that Joshua didn't say, are you going to follow me or are you against me? No, Joshua said the other way around. He said, are you with us or are you against us? So see, Joshua already had the team set. He already had the team in mind. That's what's fascinating to me about it. Look at that passage again. And, to me, it blew my mind this morning. And so the angel's response was, he said, neither. So the angel's like, look, I don't care about your side. I'm talking about God. The angel said, basically, take off your sandals, for where you're standing is holy ground. Doesn't that sound familiar in the story of Moses? So it's like, we tend to think we got our own agenda happening. Even Joshua, he was already ready to go. He had his stuff prepared. He wanted to move in on Jericho. And, he's concerned about where he's going. But the angel who got sent had the priority already down, because he's like, look, I don't care about your battle right now. I don't care about what side you're on. What I care about right now is creating a space for God. So when's the last time that you've asked that question within your worship team? When's the last time that you asked yourself in that rehearsal moment when your team is there and you said to yourself, wow, how can God begin in this space? How can I back off? How can I get out of the way? Because this is holy ground. This is holy space for God to work in. I mean, for me, that says a lot, because it's giving the Lord back His authority, His leadership, and we're no longer making it about us. So, I mean, that right there is a trip, isn't it? I mean, just to, even be called in God's presence, it's a privilege to lead worship. It's not a right. So who are we to take up space and say, this is mine, this is my fence line, this is my wall? I mean, again, like Jericho, God's going to make all that tumble down because He wants us to be His. He doesn't want our fences. He doesn't want our silos. He doesn't want anything else that we think is great. He just wants our hearts. So, going further into that, and let me just ask you, have you got comments, questions so far? Let me ask you, what's going off in your mind right now? Because I've said a lot so far, and I want to make sure that we're all tracking together. So if you are cool, great. If you got something to say, please use the comment window and type that in. Because again, this is about conversation. This is not about just, me being the talking head. So what questions do you have regarding that? What are your thoughts or ideas? What's happening within your worship team? And as I get to that, you guys get your responses. I'm just going to go ahead and roll through, but as they come in, I'll read them, okay? So here we go. So, God had to lay the groundwork first by sending the angel. And a lot like that is within our own teams. Joshua had a great team of fighting men, musicians, singers, for the place where you're standing is holy. I mean, that's what God's saying in Joshua. It comes from Joshua 5:15. Joshua had this great team. Okay, so Amy says, yeah, a lot going on, but too personal to write here. Yeah, there's a lot. It's funny because the things that I say, I don't know what sparks off in your heart and in your mind, but I know something that you guys respond, and it's like, bam, it's like bottle rocket. It's like emotions go off, and so that's cool. So just continue, like, whatever you feel like sharing, let this be a place for you to voice that. But also at the same time, we want to reserve our comments and make sure that we keep things positive, because if not, then block ministry happens. So we don't want to go there, but we want you guys to stay engaged and encouraged. So let us know what's up with your team. I mean, even if it's something that you never know, what you may say can help somebody else, because they may think, hey, I'm not alone in this whole process. So I'll move on. St. Louis says, the trickiness I currently face is that I'm leading internally, so it's different team each Sunday. Okay, so he's an interim, and he's saying, St. Louis is saying that it's different for him each week per team. That's true. And so, yeah, if you magnify that, being in a new, am I saying that correctly, St. Louis? If you're going from church to church, a new team, different weekends. I mean, yeah, I've been there and done that. Yeah, and so by leading at different places, the one thing that I try to keep in mind is that I try to stay consistent with wherever church that I go to. I mean, I travel like 30, 40 dates a year, and when I do that, I'm always faced with a new team, and they're different. So just like these broadcasts, I don't know what goes off in their hearts and minds, and I don't know what kind of background that they have. So what I try to do is just be consistent within my character and integrity and the way that I teach and the way that I lead. So the better that I do that, the more grounded I'm going to stay to each person. But more importantly, we want to make it more about the team and less about us. So that's why I say, let the walls fall down. So it's really easy, especially if, I see this in a lot of leaders that are insecure, or both young and old, that they try to put up this front and this wall, and they try to act like they know it all. Look, you're not fooling anybody, okay? I've tried that, and it doesn't work. I mean, God knows the inside of our hearts, right? And He can care less about the outward appearance. Well, the same thing with people. So it's just being real. I mean, the way I am here with you guys is the way I am with, like, my family, my church, my friends. There's no bones about it. I mean, you are who you are. So learn how to embrace the way God's made you and allow Him to do the ministry through you. I mean, nothing can really be better than that. So a lot are heart issues that you got to work on, that I got to work on before I can be real with myself, before I can be real with God, before I can be real with my people. I got to make sure that I'm allowing God to do His thing through my heart and mind first. So that's what it comes down to. So your worship team is the most visible front that the church sees. So it's got to be by unified spirit, skill, and heart. All right, so then how do we do this within a worship team? I talk about this often in our workshops that we do when I go to different churches, and I let them know that, hey, your presence, not stage presence, there's a difference, but your presence holistically within the team says everything to the church. I mean, if you're standing there with, snarled face and like this, and you're like upset with people, I mean, that stuff is just so blatantly obvious. I mean, you may not think it is, but what you do in the team matters, and how you present yourself matters. And yeah, it's just bad leadership. I mean, we have these walls up. People know it. So I had to go alongside people and just say, hey, what's going on? And it's like, oh man, and they tell you, man, I'm just upset about, on the way over here, such and such happened. And I said, okay, well, hey, can we pray about it? Because I don't want this to frustrate you when we're going into either a rehearsal or leading worship. And, you can do things like that. That's building into your team. It's walking alongside them. It's letting them know, hey, we're in this together. I've had choir members do the same thing, that, they're just not having a great day, and it could be something really, really legitimate. That happened this past Sunday. Those that were going through a hard time, and I just came alongside them and said, hey, I'm praying with you. And once they get that encouragement, they're just kind of like, wow. I mean, like the walls come down and they're kind of, lifted up, because they feel like, yeah, so-and-so's walking with me. I mean, that's what it's about. If you really want to talk about unified team, unified front, that's where it begins. Not your music. It begins with the heart. I always talk about that because these things are so true. So, how do you, now let's get to the logistics of rehearsal. How do you rehearse the many different musical influences, right? I mean, I've been to so many different churches. Gretchen, what's up? How are you on Periscope? Good to see you. It's been a long time. And SC Flowers, thanks for the shout out. Just saying hi to all the folks, and you guys on Facebook Live, thanks for joining in as well, and YouTube. So, balancing the different influences of your team. I mean, I walked in one church where I had a guitar player that was like in love with Pink Floyd. I mean, you would think that time froze and he was still in the 70s, that kind of thing. And I've worked with like a 17-year-old drummer, and then you have your pianist that's maybe in her 60s or 70s. And and I think when I say these things, I'm really identifying with the majority of the church in the U.S. I mean, like 90% of all churches have this mix-up. They have the bass player that used to maybe play Willie Nelson songs, and then you have your guitar player that's in love with Pink Floyd and Styx and all that, and your pianist, your singers, your 17-year-olds, your 30-year-olds, and it's just a big mix. Now, I realize too that a lot of churches, there's some churches in that sector that may have all 20s, all 30s, all 40s. And they may all listen to the same genre of music. They may all be, late millennials or whatever. But that's a really top, 5 or 1% of all the churches in the country. I mean, when you walk in, just pick any church that you walk into off the street, and you're going to find a guitar player, a pianist, maybe that's it, or guitar player, pianist, a drummer, and a flute player. I mean, it's just a big mixed matchup. So, I mean, how do you work with all these different types of people within your team? Well, this is what we specialize in worship team training. This is why we do our 1 and 2 day workshop events, because it's all about learning how to help you guys bring everything under one umbrella and making one unified sound. So here's what I say about giving creative authority away, is you want to play to the strengths of your guitar player who may be in love with Pink Floyd, let's say. Okay, if that's what they're really, really good at, but they're not good at playing, funk or contemporary pop or rock, well, don't force them into that mold, because if that's not where their skill sets are, it's only going to create headaches for you and for them. So what I do with the Pink Floyd, loving guitar player, I try to play to his strengths, and I say, okay, well, how about you play these few notes within this passage and make this work, but stay in the confines of what the groove, what the bassist, and what the drummer is doing. Now, that's very hard to do, and if you don't know how to communicate this musically, it can be very tough. I understand that. So how do you begin to address the different skill sets of your team? Well, number one, I listen to a lot of music, a lot of secular music. Number two, I do a lot of reading, and I just read music books. If you don't know anything about what the drums do or the bass guitar, go get a beginning drumming book or a beginning bass player book and just familiarize yourself with what the instrument can do. Listen to lots of different music as well. And then learn to communicate. Find somebody that's maybe in the next church that's bigger than yours down the street and ask them, hey, how do you address your bass player and your drummer? What are some things that you do to communicate where they get it? That's what I do. I call upon my mentors and say, hey, this and this is happening, So this is like sharing the wealth. There's no magic bullet. There's not a one way of playing, but I think it's an art, and it's hard work to better understand your team. Am I right? So, when you think about what Joshua, that's what he did within his team. Side note, I know that many condemns listening to secular music. Yeah, I say it's okay, the lyrics are clean. Amy, I resonate with you. Look, it's like anything else. If you're going to be a stumbling block for your brother, then don't do it. If it's something that's going to bring you down or compromise you, then don't do it. For me, I listen to lots of styles of music, but I also make sure that if I'm going to listen to something, if it's not God-honoring or if it's something said that, compromises my integrity, I can't listen to it, especially by the fact that, you have children in your home. That changes completely your perspective of the things that you listen to. But there's a lot of fantastic artists. The late Prince, and you think about the musicality that the guy was just a wizard of music, just amazing, And when you think about that kind of talent level, it should expand your mind, your brain, and to help you see what God can do through you. So that's why I hammer so hard about practicing, develop your craft, develop your skill, but also learn to develop other people. So when you're in the group, make it about them. Give the creative authority away. Ask your guitar Pink Floyd lover, say, hey, what kind of spin can you put on this song? Now, I know some worship leaders may be rolling their eyes right now going, oh man, yeah, I know, because if I think about my guitar player, he's going to go into this zone. Well, that may not be all bad. Think about all the music that you do. You probably do all the music that pretty much suits the way you want things to sound, right? So can't you just spare one song, just one passage in the song even? Just say, hey, let's say the guitar player's name is Larry. Say, hey, Larry, what speaks to you in the song? What is it something that you can do to give this song a different flair? And then just go with it. The idea is that we are to create and to be involved in as a band. I don't think it's healthy if you have like this one model of worship band in your mind and everything's got to sound like this one way cookie cutter worship team. That's something that Dan Spitz talked about. Dan Spitz, who's a former lead guitar player on from Anthrax. Sorry, he's a good personal friend of mine. And when he came to Christ and got into the worship world, he said the same thing. He said, you can't have this cookie cutter worship leader type world because that's not who we're identifying to. Not every band is to sound like Chris Tomlin or United Hillsong or Bethel or whatever. Those are great bands, but that doesn't mean that may be the right sound for you. So listen to the music of your church. Find out what kind of music that your church gravitates to. Because when you do that, you're going to find more of a wealth of musical styles. And even if, especially with SD Flowers, especially when it's supposed to be collective unified. Absolutely. I served in an all gospel church just a few months ago, and if I were to be forcing, one particular style, let's say like vertical church, well, that's not who they are. I mean, this church was more Israel Houghton, Hezekiah Walker, Clint Brown. That's who they were. So for me to come in and try to force a style on them that they're not really accustomed to, then I'm not using their best skill set. So I had to go with them and say, hey, you guys know the songs better than I do. I like for you to play the licks that come easy to you, and then they just did it. And so I had to adapt to them, learn their style. But you know what? It taught me a lot musically and taught me a lot of background. So, but for me, I mean, I've Israel Houghton. I've always been a big fan of high energy and high urban stuff. So it was practically easy for me to make that switch. But for a lot of worship leaders, they don't have that under their belt. So that's why I say, listen to different styles of music, even if you don't like it. You don't like R&B, or you may not like country or whatever. Listen to the different styles of music anyway, because it's only going to expand your creative palette. And then at the same time, when you're in rehearsal with your bass player that used to play, Willie Nelson bar tunes, well, get to understand them. Yeah, be flexible is what S.C. Flowers says. Be willing to help. I mean, understand their world a little bit and just, adapt your sound. I mean, I think it's kind of funny when we tell people like how to play a certain way, look a certain way, that you must sound like this, you must sound like that, when you're kind of forcing culture on your own team. Now, if that's who your church is, great. I know that's not who my church is. So I got to be real with my people, and I think a lot of leaders, it's probably easier for them to say, hey, what you see on YouTube in this video, I want you to look like that and play like that. Or you need to sound like this MP3, and you need to do exactly what they do. That's a cop-out. I'm sorry. I think it's a lot harder work to actually go into a team that has this plethora of mixed culture and mixed background and learn to make music from their strengths. That takes a lot more work, but when you do it, the payoff is huge. Now, I am a firm believer in hiring musicians, because I believe that when you hire well, they're going to teach well. And so I'm in the process right now of making some things happen within our own team where when the guys come in, they're going to serve as mentors to the rest of the musicians. And the same thing used to happen when I would hire professional singers to be vocal coaches and choir directors. I know that they're going to be there to help teach the team, and they can bring the best out of them. So for me, I'm giving that creative leadership away also by hiring other people that know more than I do. So it's only going to make the team better. So when you do that, you're investing in your own ministry. You're learning to invest within your team. And yeah, it is a lot of hard work. But, again, you can have a cookie cutter worship team, or you can have a worship team that saves souls. I prefer to save souls. I prefer to be real. I prefer to learn how to get the best out of people, because that's how your ministry is going to grow. It's not going to happen by watching a YouTube clip or anything else. So, playing to their skills, all right? Let's see, for instance, I had a drummer that had a very weak left hand. On the right hand was fine. And so, when they were playing, he was trying to do some complicated rhythms and what we call ghost notes in the snare drum with the left hand, but the left hand really wasn't cutting it. And I can tell that when he was playing the kick drum and the hi-hat, he was able to follow really well, but once that left hand got in the way, and he was trying to do complicated patterns, it was causing corruption with like the rhythm guitar players and also the pianist. So all I said to him was, let's say his name is Ted, okay? So Ted, give me just a strong right hand on the hi-hat, and just play simple 2 and 4 on the snare, or just on count 4. But anything to keep the tempo and time solid. Anytime that you do that, you're playing to the strengths of your instrumentalists. The same thing with your singers. If your singer is not a harmony singer, don't make them sing harmony parts. Help them to learn it outside rehearsal or worship, but don't enforce that on them in the moment when you're trying to rehearse things, because it will only frustrate people. So like Ted, for instance, I didn't want to go to him and say, all right, hey, that complicated part that you're doing with the left hand, well, hey, if you do this, and if you do that, and if you do this, it can change things, and we can make this better. Well, he's already having a tough time with what he's doing currently. So why would I want to pour a bucket on him and just spill everything out where it's just going to be that much more trouble? So it's always better to take things away and remove it, so that way you have more liberty. So once I told him, hey, if your right hand is strong and you can keep time with that better, then do that. Do that, and just a kick is fine. Then later on, add 2 and 4 on the snare or whatever. And once he did that, it cleaned up the guitar line. It cleaned up what the pianist was trying to do, and they were better able to lock in. So again, it's playing to their strengths. It's learning how to create space with the music. Not everybody has to play all the time, every note, everything. Okay, you're going to get much more music by just keeping it simple. Remember, less is more. It truly is. So let's move on. We're going to wrap up in just a minute. So if you got some final comments or questions, go ahead and funnel those in. Just type it in right now in the comment window. Let me know what's up. What's up, Laura on Periscope? Good to see you. So creative leadership by giving it away. I mean, that's the art of what a worship leader can do. Or if you're a leader in your vocal team, or a music director, or a leader in your choir, or a leader in your band, when you can learn how to give creativity away and empower people, it just makes you a better leader, because you're not the one staying in the way all the time. Again, going back to the life of Joshua. Joshua had priests, musicians, singers. Joshua had everybody around him, and what was great was that he also showed patience, because God told him, look, you're going to walk around the city 7 times. But he said before that, you're going to be walking around 1 time, and then 2 times, and then 3 times. And don't blow the horns, don't give a shout yet, but wait for the Lord. Now, I think that's excellent timing within our worship leadership. It's learning how to wait on God. It's learning how to pull the trigger at the right time. All those things are within a balance. And when we read the story of Jericho, because Joshua obeyed, the walls came down. So where is it in your life that God is calling you to wait? Where is it in your life right now as a team, as a leader, that God's calling you to say, hey, hold up, don't pull the trigger yet. Wait for me, because what I got is good. And I think if we change that within ourselves to let waiting and patience become a better default, then we're going to go much farther in our worship teams, and our teams will go even farther. I mean, the true essence of a team is to help them shine. That's your responsibility as a leader, is to help your team glow, to help them shine. Because when they do, and what's awesome is that when your church sees it, and your church sees your team unified, glowing, I mean, sparks are flying, I mean, like the lightning's just coming off. I mean, how much better is that worship going to be? Because when people look up, they don't see people frustrated. They don't see people trying to create their own parts and, oh, remember, they got to do exactly what their worship leader said, and oh, they can't miss this one note because that's what the MP3 did. Man, I mean, talk about pressure. I realized, like, when I started out leading worship, I thought, now this is a long time ago, I'm not going to tell you when, it doesn't matter, right? But I remember I was very up on it's got to sound like the MP3. Now look, I've done music all my life. I've got my undergrad and master's degrees in it, but I still, when I got in the ministry, man, it's almost like I had to start all over again learning. And the one thing that I found was that, number one, they're volunteers. They're not professional musicians. They're volunteer singers, volunteer band members. They may not have the musical background that you do. You may say to yourself, yeah, well, Brandon, I don't have that much of a musical background either. Okay, then well put, right? Your team is in that same boat. So I remember I was really big on it's got to sound like this, because it wasn't me trying to make a sound for them. It was my perfectionism, because I've done so much music, and I know what precision is, that I wanted to instill that within the team. But what I didn't realize is that it was instilling frustration, and it was making people feel like they were being, they had somebody watching over their shoulder. I'm like, then I backed up real easily. I had great friends in my life like John Chisholm, Jamie Harville, Danny Lane. I mean, all these fantastic people will come in and say, hey, Brandon, hey, dude, slow down. They're your team. They're not, just go easy. And it was like, wow. And then it occurred to me, if I'm exhibiting that kind of pressure to them, well, then no wonder why they look petrified leading worship. No wonder why they look stressed when they're trying to lead others. No wonder why they may not look happy, because they're too busy trying to go through all the mechanics in their minds. They're not worshiping, and they're not being themselves. So that's why I say give the creative authority away. Don't try to sound like the church down the street or the church on YouTube or what you hear on an MP3. Minister to your worship team the way they are. Meet them where they are. I mean, again, I go back to Joshua. That's exactly what Joshua did. You didn't see Joshua when the angel confronted him and the angel had said, this is holy ground. And Joshua just obeyed. He just knelt down to the floor and just worshiped. He didn't try to fight for territory. He didn't make it about himself. He quickly identified, hey, this is God, and I'm just going to shut up. I think that's the best advice that we can have as leaders. When our people are before us, let them do their thing, but guide them along the way. Build into them, nurture that relationship. So, again, this is something that you can very easily do within your team, and it's just little steps along the way. And as I say in every broadcast, we're here to help you with that at Worship Team Training, whether it's by mentoring or whether it's by workshops. What we can do, I go to a lot of churches and I work with their teams one-to-one. I may just sit down with just the pianist. I may just sit down with the vocal team or the rhythm section or the whole 7 of them or 150 of them. And the whole point is helping everybody get on one page, both in heart, skill, and spirit. And the better that we can do that, again, then the better they're going to be equipped in leading worship. So as we wrap up, what are your final thoughts? And where's your head and all this? Because I said a lot here, and you guys were commenting back and forth too. So you guys on Periscope and Facebook Live, thanks for that. As we wrap up, just go ahead and type in your last final responses. Thanks, Laura. Really appreciate that. She said good words. Thank you for that. As we're wrapping up, guys, be sure to, again, find us on Snapchat, download the app, and add us, WorshipTT. Let us know what's going on. And then also Tony Guerrero at our webinar that's free next Tuesday at 3 p.m. That's May the 24th. You can't miss it. Just go to WorshipTeamTraining.com/events. Don't miss that. All right, you guys. Love you. Thank you so much for coming today. Hey, look, be sure to check out our workshops page. If you feel like you want to take things a step further, we're here for you. WorshipTeamTraining.com/workshops. Great to have you today. Thanks so much for coming, and we'll see you guys back very soon tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on the Worship Team Morning Show. Thanks for being with us today. Love you, and see you guys very soon.